Who else you hot at?
Certain people claiming that Raw should be 2 hours. Okay, first of all, we added the cruiserweight division. That's about 4 segments, okay? So that covers that almost that entire extra hour. But second of all, you got to understand this. It's not going to happen. TV contracts, the 3 major markets of the United States, UK, and India all run till December of 2019. WWE makes $173 million off television revenue during that time. By far, the most out of anything else on the balance sheet. They make about $137 million off the network. They make about $106 million off live events. The rest of it is under $50 million each. So when you have $173 million, that's the biggest driver of revenue for WWE, and you want to take out 1 hour, that third hour of Raw brings a huge amount of revenue and also leeway on your balance sheet for WWE to do some incredible things. And I don't understand why people want to take Raw from 3 hours to 2 hours because they say there's not enough programming to fill those 3 hours. I completely disagree.
These are your people.
The internet people.
No, don't say that.
No, that's true. And guess what?
The fans.
Yeah, but
and you represent the fans.
And a lot of us.
And as the representative of the fans, you just posed that question. Of course, you posed it to the SmackDown guy. You didn't pose it to the Raw guy, though I could not have articulated the point better than Mr. JBL, but it's your people.
Well, listen.
Stop.
No, we're addicted to the WWE.
You're addicted to
No, that too.
And moaning. And complaining.
It all comes together, guys.
Fetching.
Well, guess what? I have good news for you. Coming up next.
Oh, wait a minute. Answer the question. Do you think that Raw should go from 3 hours to 2 hours, and if so, why?
I believe that I would enjoy Raw more if it was 2 hours, not 3 hours.
He didn't ask you if you would enjoy it more.
I'm just telling you my personal opinion. I have to fast forward too much.
The question was, answer the question that's asked.
I do not think they should, of course, knowingly lose money, but as a fan, I would enjoy it more. I enjoy SmackDown more at 2 hours.
What you'd enjoy. He asked if you thought they should cut it from 3 hours to 2 hours.
No. When I hear the finances that you presented,
why are you qualifying it? Yes or no?
Because as a fan,
yes or no?
Yeah, I want it to be 2 hours.
Okay, you're entitled to your stupid opinion.
And guess what?
It's also irrelevant.
I have more stupid
opinions. And it ain't going to happen.
I have more stupid
opinions. So get used to it.
Coming live from the studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois, welcome to episode 36 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. What's going on, boys and girls? It's your boy Josh Lopez, student of the game of professional wrestling, recording this bad boy live on a Tuesday, January 3rd, 2016, depending when you guys are listening to this bad boy. This is the most authentic pro wrestling podcast in the world, centered for you, the true wrestling fans. You guys can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousJoshi. You guys can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, get all our previous editions of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast on my personal YouTube channel. Just type in Joshua Lopez and write in Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. You guys will probably find it really easy. Really quick, I just want to say happy belated Happy New Year and Christmas to everybody. I hope you guys are having a good time. For those, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, you're in for a treat. For those that don't know me, I am a 22-year-old professional broadcaster out of Chicago, Illinois. This is my primary piece of audio work that I do every week, besides being on the Pipe Bomb with McCool Company, which you can check out on the New Age Insiders Network. Also, I do play-by-play articles for WrestleZone.com, so that's a little backstory about what I do here. I've been part of the wrestling media for the past 3.5 years, and it's had its ups and downs, but 2016 was a good year, and I think 2017 is just going to keep eclipsing, and I've been doing, literally in March, it'll be my 4th year of doing this wrestling media stuff, and each year it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. 2013, to even have the thought of having my show that I was uploaded from Windows Movie Maker to go all the way to ChicagolandSportsRadio.com, did that project for 3 years, got to cover a WrestleMania in California a couple years ago, to now where we are with podcasting and everything I'm doing with WrestleZone. It seems like every year since I started this stuff back in 2013, It's just been one crazy ride, and I couldn't be more grateful for the support you guys have given this podcast and my work in general. So for that, I'm thankful for you guys, and I'm going to pay you back with the best audio content that you can't find anywhere else. Now, I know people love New Year's resolutions. I know people, they get off on that type of stuff. But for me, I'm not that type of guy. If there's something I want to do, I just go out and do it. And it's been the same way for the past 4 years. I only have one goal when it comes to this particular podcast. And that's it. That's just to make it the most authentic wrestling podcast out there. And what do I mean by authentic? Authentic meaning not saying the same bullshit that you hear on every other wrestling podcast. Being authentic meaning is not being afraid to call out people on their bullshit, especially if they're from the wrestling media, or former wrestlers or writers who think the world of wrestling and the entire world owes them something, like I'm going to do today. Also, authentic meaning I have different opinions. Just because my opinion is not the common belief that you hear on all these other shows or wrestling website chat boards, that doesn't make me a bad guy. I don't know if that makes me a good guy, I guess, but what I am saying is you guys are getting the authentic product in my authentic opinion when it comes to this stuff. I do have a disclaimer out there. I am more cautiously optimistic when it comes to pro wrestling than most other people, because I understand the platform of what it is. I know that professional wrestling is not a sport, so I don't look at it as a sport. I never have back in 1998, and I sure as hell don't do it right now in 2017. I love the business. I have a fun time doing these play-by-play pieces. I love coming on here and talking to you guys about professional wrestling, and that's what I want to do. So we got a lot to get into today, and there's going to be a lot of changes going on with this podcast going in through the rest of the year. I'm going to be, as you guys have been noticing over the past 3 weeks, I've been adding a lot more production elements, more audio clips, more music in the background. I'm going back to my roots. I'm going back to my roots that I was at ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. For those that don't know, I did the show called Pro Wrestling Experience for 2.5 years on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com, and I used. It was a 3-hour wrestling radio show just by myself. I spent a lot of time talking about certain different shows at the time. I did the shows on Wednesday, so I always had time to talk SmackDown, Impact, Raw, all that jazz. And during that time period, I realized that I had to, if I wanted to stand out from everybody else that does these type of shows, I had to do something different. And what do I mean by different? I need to add more context and more evidence to my points. Because I'm not afraid to have a hot take. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. But at the same time, unlike other people, I can back up my opinions with actual audio clips. And production elements, it was a big part of the pro wrestling experience. Hell, I'll admit this, the production elements took 30% of the shows I was doing on the radio, besides the hard-hitting interviews we were doing back then. And that's my goal to do with this year. I love playing the audio clips. It's not that I could talk to you guys plain like nothing for 2 hours. Hell, I did it for over 7 months last year with Adam Daly. You know, I'm not afraid to talk, but at the same time, it's good to let the truth come out from other people's opinions, and then just me coming out here assuming things about people. And then, I have these open-ended statements about a person in the wrestling business without any facts behind it. And I'm not going to do that. I didn't do that back then, and I sure as hell am not going to do that now. So there's 3 particular people I want to break down this year. And it's probably the only time I'm going to address these 3 people, because it's the beginning of the new year. I want to start this show with a bang. I'm going to knock down 3 guys that I feel that are really hurting the wrestling business right now. I'm going to talk about Raw from last night. And I'm also going to talk about what's going on heading into the Royal Rumble. Unfortunately, I won't get to add my thoughts on SmackDown this week because I have some stuff I got to do tomorrow. But nonetheless, you guys can check out my SmackDown play-by-play piece tonight at WrestleZone.com. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this bad boy started. The first person that I'm going to speak about in this particular podcast is a guy that you've heard a lot on this podcast before. That is Vince Russo. Now, again, I like to teach everybody that just because somebody has an opinion doesn't mean it's news. So, this whole big viral news spread came out last night during Raw that, Vince Russo doesn't see Kevin Owens as a real world champion. I want to play you the audio clip here, and I'll give you my response after it.
From what I've heard as a shoot, like Kevin Owens is really Triple H's boy. And I mean, bro, it's so funny. If you, the old Sesame Street where they used to put, like, a picture of a chicken and a hen and a goose and a hammer. And they would say, what here doesn't belong? And, the hammer doesn't belong. Bro, do you know the champions the WWE has had? When you look at the champions they had, go back to Bruno Sammartino. You go back to the Hulk Hogans. You go back to, just the champions they've had throughout their history. Billy Graham, Kevin Owens. I mean, come on, like, seriously, And, I mean, bro, Roddy Piper wasn't even a WWE champion. And you look at the champions they had, the Savages, and, I think the Warrior was a champion. But then you look at Rock, and you look at Austin, and you look at Taker, and you look at Shawn Michaels, and you look at Bret Hart. You look at, like, this collage of champions. And then you put Kevin Owens' picture in that. Kevin Owens does not look like a champion. And you know what, bro? Maybe part of that is the WWE's fault. The WWE is responsible for ring entrance, ring attire, writing, developing a character, molding a character. They're responsible for that. So I don't put this all on Kevin Owens. They've got to make and create a star. But Vince McMahon was the one who told me, from Vince's lips to me, Vince, if you want to be a star, the first thing you have to do is look like a star. Vince McMahon told me that. Everybody I just mentioned look like a freaking star. Every one of them down the pike. Look, John Cena is a freaking star. Whatchamacallit? Lesnar is a star. These guys look like stars. Kevin Owens does not look like a star. And if he's there because he's Triple H's boy, well, that tells you a lot you need to know. And the fact that they are drawing less crowded house shows, that tells you something. Why they don't make a change, I don't know, bro. I don't know how things work there today. But when the WWE champion is the hood ornament of your company. If it were me, my hood ornament would not be somebody that looks like Kevin Owens. That's my opinion.
Because if you were an MMA fan and hadn't seen wrestling and you looked at it and you saw that he was the champion, yeah. Your first
reaction would be, bro? I could take that guy.
That clip was brought to you by Hannibal TV. Subscribe to their YouTube channel, Hannibal TV, on YouTube. Look, there's points that I agree and disagree with Vince Russo. And, the unfortunate thing is that I actually looked up to the guy a lot when I was younger. For those that know me, my goal in life was always to be a wrestling commentator and just be part of the wrestling business. Never wanted to be a wrestler, never wanted to be a manager, never wanted to be a personality on air. I just wanted to be a commentator. I wanted to be the next Jim Ross. Or if I had the opportunity and I became good at writing, who knows, maybe I could have done something that Vince Russo did during the Attitude Era. And I hear in this podcast all the time, there's nobody with the balls or the ability to outdo the numbers him and Ed Ferrara do. And that fuels my fire. It really does. Just because you took advantage of stealing concepts from other edgy shows during the time period where you're allowed to have edgy content on worldwide television every single week doesn't make you a creative genius, in my opinion. And 2 years of programming where you're stealing concepts from other shows, also ECW, to forge your edgy narrative on your programming, doesn't make you a creative genius, especially after that, 19 years later. What's the main thing you've done to positively affect the wrestling business since 1999? What has Vince Russo done since October 1999 when he left the WWF that's been successful, that's been worthwhile, that's meant something? I know he was with TNA for 10 years. I know they tried to compete with Raw on Monday nights back in 2010. It didn't work out. He's not in TNA anymore. He's with Smoky Mountain Pro now. Like, the thing that bothers me is when people try to play the victim and always need to go to the nth degree to say the most outlandish and ridiculous bullshit just for the sake of getting clicks on their shows or get people attention. I know I have a podcast. I know I have a brand. I know that you need to get your name out there. But I don't need to get my name out there by acting like a jackass and saying a bunch of shit that I don't believe in. I've never been that way. Every time I've came on this show or when I was on the pipe bomb, I didn't put an act on. I just gave my honest opinion. And yes, my opinion is very different than common wrestling fans. And I get flack for it. Oh well. I'm sorry that I'm willing to look at this from a bigger picture standpoint and not just go off what other people say on social media or on podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time listening to the show, I appreciate your support. I really do. I appreciate every support of every wrestling fan that checks out my shows or my articles. It means a lot to me, guys. It really does. But at the same time, just because my opinion is different than yours doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. And just because you have this hard take, this massive hot take on a wrestling angle or booking philosophy doesn't make you right. At the same time, it doesn't make me wrong to disagree with you. You know, my thing with Vince Russo is that, okay, you heard him right there. He says, okay, Kevin Owens doesn't look like a champion. When I see Kevin Owens on my screen, I can take the guy. Really? You could take the guy? The guy that couldn't even take a proper spear right without getting a concussion? Yeah, nice job, bro. Nice job, bro. And the guy just goes on and on and on again and again and again and again with this repetitive bullshit. And oh my God, the Attitude Era was the greatest thing of all time. The guy even was so desperate to put himself over that he spent over a year and a half looking back at shows he wrote, and 99% of the time he was putting it over. Without any objectivity, without willing or taking the time to critique himself. And I'm supposed to take this guy seriously? I'm supposed to take a guy seriously on a podcast that goes, I'm just being honest, bro. I'm just being honest. Oh, I build my brand on honesty 100. The guy says on this show, like Taz, 100 times, oh, I'm just being honest. If you have to say that you're just being honest 100 times on the show, I don't care if it's an entertainment show, a sports show, a wrestling show, a music show, you're not honest. Just like with people that say, yeah, but, or if, but this, what if this happens? Maybe this, maybe that. No. For me, I'm an absolute guy. I've always been that way for the 20 plus years I've been on this earth. And I don't feel like I need to put an act on for people. So I don't know why this guy comes out week in and week out trying to come up with this bullshit that he doesn't even believe in. For the guy that doesn't care about professional wrestling, he always finds a way to talk about something that happened on this week's previous show. And you know why that happens? And that's the main topic of today's show. I'm going to knock down the 3 pegs of sheep in the wrestling fandom, in the wrestling fan base, and the wrestling community. We're going to Vince Russo, Kevin Dunn, and Dave Meltzer today. That's what we're doing. I feel like these 3 guys are the problem with today's professional wrestling, at least from a fan's point of view. And I got audio clips to prove it. Because all 3 of you, all you sheep for these guys, cling on to everything these guys say like it's the freaking gospel. Okay, 2 years of programming that wasn't even authentic in the first place, besides Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you're going to tell me this guy's the creative genius, and his claim to fame now in 2017 is that he's trying to rip off Howard Stern? I'm supposed to buy into that? I'm sorry, I can't. Okay, I'm fine with people having their opinions, but I can tell when somebody's talking out of their ass and they don't believe the bullshit that's coming out of their mouth. I can smell that from a mile away, especially for somebody who does this for a living. And then this guy has the nerve, the gall, and the gumption to say, oh, people who cover wrestling for a living should get a life, and they should look themselves in the mirror and do this and do that. Who are you to tell me what to do in my life? Because you hate wrestling, that means I can't go out and go reach out for my dreams and do what I want to do? So, because Vince Russo says, oh, for people that cover wrestling for a living, oh, they're nerds, they're virgins, they're this, they're that. Brother, you don't know anything about me. So, first, this is what I love about society today. We come out with these outlandish assumptions about how people are and what their character is, yet we don't take the time or put any effort to actually get the brass tacks facts of what these people are. We just assume, oh, okay, this because one person says this, oh, this guy's that type of person. Oh, because because Lance Storm says this guy's this way, so that means this guy is that type of person. I don't get people that live with assumptions. I don't get it. I just don't get it. So peg 1 is out of the way. We got done with my thoughts on Vince Russo. Now, let's talk about Kevin Dunn.
We were talking earlier on about Jim Cornette and Vince Russo coming into play and being involved in the meetings. Why did Jim Cornette and Kevin Dunn not get along?
Okay. Do you remember the, what was it, the Revolutionary War? No, wait, what was the Civil War?
Yes.
Remember the Civil War?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin Dunn, Yankees. Cornette, Confederacy. Just, pretty much it.
They just never...
Oil and water. Had different views of what the business was, had different views of what the business should be, and neither one really gave to the other.
Did you ever get involved in any of that, or did you stay neutral and say, hey, or did you get behind one's ideas more than the others? Because you know Jim forever, and he's an old school guy and old school philosophy. And
well, Jim, I said this to Jimmy last night. It's Jimmy forgets that it's 2013, and at the time, whatever year that was, it was like, Jimmy, it's not 1983 anymore.
The business has evolved.
The business has evolved tremendously, and they just had completely different viewpoints on what it should and shouldn't be. And Cornette's very outspoken and he's very eloquent and can be charming in some of his anecdotes, but not always kind.
He speaks the truth, speaks his mind, and doesn't censor anything.
Right. There's no filter.
Yeah. Did you get along with Kevin?
Yeah, I got along with Kevin fine. I mean, in our early days, we didn't necessarily get along, but, again, everybody grows up. And
That clip was brought to you by RF Video and Rob Feinstein, Bruce Prichard's shoot interview. You guys can go find that on YouTube and rfvideo.com and make sure you buy those shoot interviews because those are good. And those guys put a lot of work in trying to make sure you get those out there. And it takes a lot of time editing. I could tell from personal experience editing and producing video documentaries and this type of stuff and interviews. So check it out, RF Video, Bruce Prichard's early shoot interview for 2013. And you're also going to hear Bruce later, the next guy we're going to talk about. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular person because there's really not much to say but this. You guys heard my Kevin Dunn impression on the pipe bomb, right? We're not wrestling. We're not wrestling. One of the big things in wrestling, in the wrestling community, when it comes to fans that I see get a lot of buzz and attention, is the never-ending hate for Kevin Dunn, and I'm also part of that too, to a certain extent. But also there's this hysteria that Kevin Dunn is not part of creative. Oh, he's just the production guy. And that's what I want to talk about. Because for somebody like me who does this for a living, how can somebody be called an executive producer of a programming show when he's not part of the production meetings, which probably means the creative meetings? And B, the guy's part of the board of directors, so of course he would know what the booking philosophies were, because it affects business. I don't get it. Yeah, I understand the guy's in the production trying to make these video packages and all stuff. And his work speaks for itself. I'll give him credit where credit's due. His work speaks for itself for able to be pulling that off for over 30 years. And he's assembled a good crew. The guys there in that production crew, they set up the shows and the way they do the video packages. You got to get credit where credit's due there. But don't tell me that this guy has nothing to do with creative or how certain talents are viewed. Don't tell me that. Because we could bring up the whole CM Punk Colt Cabana podcast right now. And I know a lot of these wrestlers are afraid to bring this guy's name up. But everybody talks about right-hand man for Vince, the yes man for Vince. John Laurinaitis, yeah, he could be a yes man, but also the guy was a cop-out. Because the guy was going to be on television already beforehand. The right-hand man is Kevin Dunn. The right-hand man has been Kevin Dunn, even when Vinny Rue and Ed Ferrara were at the WWE. Nobody has a higher say in that company, not Stephanie, not Triple H. Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn run that business, at least from the product point of view. And you know, I get labeled. Oh, I don't rip the WWE enough. Oh, I'm not negative enough. Oh, I'm not being honest. I am honest. I said it a couple months ago on the show. If there's something I don't like, I don't talk about it because that's the only response I need. Silence speaks volume. Why should I waste my time and get stressed over something that was fucking stupid? Or something that should have happened in the first place. It's not my control. It's not my company. I'm not responsible for it. I move on. And a lot of times when I'm covering these shows, I had to take that fan element out of it too, because I had to focus on making sure I get everything on the show right on the article. So there's also a portion that also affects my point of view in things too. I'll admit that. My thing is, you can't be naive and tell yourself, hey, Kevin Dunn's just part of the production team. He has nothing to do with creative. Come on. The common WWE things that you see all the time, or you see on Twitter, WWE logic, or this is how the WWE do this, or all these old hysterias and narratives of how the companies run, it all goes back to Kevin Dunn. I mean, it's really not that hard to figure out. So I just want to spend some time on that schmuck and get that out of the way. Now, this one's going to be a big one before we get into Monday Night Raw. Now, we're going to talk about the almighty leader of Sheeps, Dave Meltzer.
People have led themselves to believe or want to believe.
You're saying not everything that you see on Twitter is true?
It's not?
No.
Oh, damn. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you can't believe everything you read, and you can't believe everything that, that people that want to put a certain spin on things are going to spin them in certain ways. And I get accused of spinning. And after 43 years in the business, I don't have much spin left in me. It's just kind of, this is the way it was, and things have been built up in such a way that their expectations are, well, this had to be this way. And it's like, no, it's just kind of, this happened, that happened. Mm-hmm. That's it. No, there was a conspiracy.
It was a rib.
It was a rib, yeah. I mean, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to waste millions upon millions of dollars and hours upon hours of television time just to rib somebody. Just to, come on.
Or you're going to pay millions and millions of dollars in taxes on a gate that was, in fact, not true.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be a publicly held company, and you're gonna report earnings and pay taxes on those earnings, and make a statement to the federal government and the Securities Exchange Commission that are not factual, so that you can fluff up whatever. I don't know, and you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it by 5 or 10,000. You're going to do it by 30,000. Your numbers are such lies. Come on, people.
So wait. So to dispel the rumors completely, because you've already broken a lot of rumors. The Red Rooster, wasn't a rib, and he wasn't. Terry Taylor wasn't going to be Mr. Perfect. You said that Dusty Rhodes, the polka dots, was not a rib. Are you telling me right now, definitively, you can bust the rumor that the WrestleMania attendance numbers are not lies?
I can tell you that. Are we talking about Texas Stadium in particular?
We can talk about AT&T Stadium, 101,700.
Let me just throw it out there. Let's talk about anything that Dave Meltzer has reported, because Dave and I have had some interesting exchanges on Twitter, as you have, Brad, and I know Dave said some disparaging things about your new podcast, Bruce. Dave Meltzer and his company have reported several different numbers about the WrestleMania attendance, other than the number, the 101,000 plus that WrestleMania or the WWE has reported on WrestleMania several times to their investors and to sponsors as well. Are you saying that those numbers are in fact true?
I would hope to God they are. I mean, again, why are you going to pay taxes on? Why are you going to put out public information that can come back and not just bite you in the ass, but bite your shareholders in the ass? I mean, come on, man. That's just stupid. And it's silly to even suggest something like that.
Yeah.
It's a different world. It's a different time. And I don't put a whole lot of stake into what, Meltzer says. I go back in the past and when he used to report, well, the real figures are this. And I'm looking at the real figures. I'm looking at the actual statements from the buildings of what we drew, how many tickets were sold, what we pay taxes on, how many comps were there, how many people were there. And I'm thinking, well, damn, if we really only drew 6,000, what the hell are we doing paying taxes on 10,000 for?
Right.
It's a good way. It's a good way to run your company out of business.
I want to go back and I wonder why the building is paying us for 10,000 tickets sold, when in reality, the truth is we only. Come on, it's silly. He's relying on somebody who was there that called him and said, "Oh, well, it looked like there were so many people there." What does he base it on? He doesn't give his sources. He doesn't come out and have any true factual information.
Well, that's what I've said before, because if you're making the allegation that a publicly traded company is lying to its investors, lying to potential sponsors, lying to fans, you should at least get one source that would be willing to go on the record, just one, to substantiate your claim.
Those are serious allegations.
They are very
too.
serious allegations. I mean, this goes beyond just, quote, wrestling journalism. You're accusing a publicly traded company of lying to people who are giving it money.
Can I point something out, though, is that Dave Meltzer also at one point suggested that the Pope lied about his attendance numbers. So if he suggests that the Pope is lying, I don't think there's really...
That probably is true. Just saying, but no, it's... I do not understand what it is in people that want to poke holes in everything and want to drag down something just for the sake of dragging it down. It feels like to me, it's kind of like when TNA has their issues and their problems. Instead of going and saying, "Damn, let's fix those issues and how can we help," or whatever, they're going out of business. Anybody that's worked in the business, truthfully, if you're happy for someone else going out of business, you need to get the hell out of the business. Because TNA being in business, WWE being in business, ROH being in business, Reality of Wrestling being in business, it's important for everybody to have an opportunity to have somewhere else to go work. It's important to have healthy business. And to cheer the demise of another company it's not cool, and they may be having problems. I don't know, not there, but I just cringe when I hear people, "Woohoo! TNA's finally going out of business."
Yeah,
I'd rather hear the "Woohoo! TNA turned the corner and is giving some competition and giving the audience an alternative."
Yeah. Because that's what we've seen in the past. And, I mean, you go back to the Monday Night Wars, a rising tide lifts all ships. I mean, if the product's better from everyone in the industry, it's better for wrestling fans, it's better for workers, it's better for people that work in the industry and people who are fans of it.
Well,
and it's good for sponsors. And
WCW kicking our ass got us off our ass.
Yeah.
Frankly, we had probably gotten the wrinkles out of our belly a little bit, and we're resting on our laurels and got a little lazy and complacent. And WCW, there were other factors too, but WCW coming in and kicking our ass made us go, can we do something different? And we did.
I've just never understood, though, like you said, like the people who they print stuff or they write stuff, that's almost like gotcha, WWE. We got you with your pants down. I mean, what do you think the mindset is? Because let me ask you this. Better yet, when you were at WWE or even with TNA or wherever, when you would read this stuff that you knew was blatantly untrue, what was the reaction like in the office? Was it just like, did you write it off?
But you have to write it off.
Yeah.
But at that point, that's when you realize you got to write all of it off. Because when you're reading things that you know are completely 100% false, how do you know what else? How can anything else have any credibility whatsoever? So, I don't read it. I go to one thing on the internet and I read headlines just to kind of see what the hell's going on in the world. But I don't take it as, oh my God, this happened. I take it as, that's what they're talking about.
That clip was brought to you by Title Match Wrestling. Check out their YouTube page, Title Match Wrestling, also in association with Booker T's Reality of Wrestling in Houston. So check out their work. I checked out a lot of their podcasts and interviews, and those guys do a great job. So I'm going to give a shout out to the boys at Title Match Wrestling. Look, ladies and gentlemen, you guys that are loyal fans of the show know my opinion on Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer in general. And the reason I brought this up, because this means a lot to me. And starting off the year with a bang, I have to be honest, if just genuinely blunt with you guys about how I feel about where the wrestling media is as a whole going into 2017. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to do the show this week and do it a little bit differently. I can spend time here and break down booking scenarios and fantasy book this and fantasy book that. it's just not my thing to do it on my own. You know, yeah, I could do it with Matt because it's fun and we're having a back and forth conversation, but it's just me here. And honestly, I get bored with it, to be honest with you. You know, I listen to other podcasts. I listen to Cheap Heat, so give a shout out to Rosenberg and Stat Guy Greg. And by the way, I would give shout out to Rosenberg, as you guys heard at the beginning of the show. Last night, the WWE Network aired their Bring It to the Table special, which I love. I think it's a really cool concept, and I think Peter killed it. And I love to be part of Cheap Heat one day, just hang out, shoot the shit with the guys. But anyways, going back to this, but the main thing is I want to break down the sheep mentality when it comes to these guys, because it's people that just drive on bullshit. And, you know, I know a lot of people like to rip Bruce Prichard and the guy's a WWF stooge and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But, ladies and gentlemen, over the past 3 months, I have literally stopped listening to at least 75% of the wrestling podcasts that feature former WWF talents or people that are currently in the business. I stopped listening to Eric Bischoff's show. There was a moment where I stopped listening to Taz's show. I'm sure as hell I haven't listened to Vinny Russo in months. I stopped listening to Stone Cold because I love Steve, but he just says the same stuff every single week, and I get bored with it after a while. Literally, the only two people that I listen to, besides Ric Flair, on a weekly basis, is Jim Ross and Bruce Prichard. Those are the two people I listen to. Because those guys deal with facts. And they got nothing to hide. They got nothing to... They don't need to backpedal from anything. They tell it how it is. They were there. They lived it. For somebody who's part of journalism, I appreciate good reporting. I do. But in wrestling media today, it's shambles. It's a freaking circus at this point. Hell, all this stuff that was just mentioned there in that interview with Bruce Prichard earlier this year about the WrestleMania numbers. Earlier last year. All that stuff about fluctuating WrestleMania attendance numbers and all the other stuff Dave Meltzer has, using air quotes here, reported, it's all based on bullshit. Because it didn't go the way he wanted it to go. That's what it is. The wrestling media now. If something's not going to their booking philosophy or their fantasy booking philosophy, we're going to make this outlandish opinion-based piece and then make it off like it's news. That's why I don't do the type of reports that you guys see on the other sites. And yes, I do play-by-play pieces on WrestleZone.com, so you guys can rip me for that. But here's the difference. When I do my play-by-play pieces, it's based on fact. You don't see me on the article saying, oh, I didn't like the way this promo segment went off. They should have done this. They should have done that. I just write what's on the show. I'm transcribing what's the show. I said that on my LinkedIn account, kind of like the court stenographer. Like, literally, I'm doing like the best transcription of the show that I can in a written form. So, look, guys, I'll give credit where credit's due. Dave Meltzer has made a living over 35 years for having sheep cling on to his, using air quotes again, reporting style. Because, again, he says he has these sources. I'm not somebody that deals with yeah buts, but, oh, my sources says this, my sources says that. Just be upfront with this shit, man. Be honest. Oh, I need to hide behind my source. And people can say what they want about Bruce Prichard, man, but I'll tell you right now, besides the pipe out with McCool & Company and JR's show, freaking Bruce Prichard's Something to Wrestle With may be the best wrestling podcast out there right now, as we currently speak. And I'll say that without hesitation, man. He is killing it with his new podcast. So check out Something to Wrestle With on the MLW radio network. All right, so we talked about Meltzer sheep. We talked about Kevin Dunn. We talked about Vince Russo and his sheep. Because, hey, can't get off the member bears. I remember. You remember? I remember. I want to spend some time here before we close out the show and talk about what's going on in today's wrestling. And I think next week we're really going to go more in depth with what's going on with TNA and Lucha Underground and Ring of Honor. Because next week I want to do kind of a state of wrestling thing and talk about where I see the business going in 2017. I really want to do that on next week's show. So I can do that for you guys. But this week I wanted to start out the year in the bang and do something different and do some added production and get you guys to start thinking about stuff. And that's the goal here, man. We're here to make you guys think and react. So going to Raw, Raw's going to have a very interesting year going into 2017. I know TV contracts is a big topic, a news topic that's going to be going around a lot in the year to come. And I enjoyed the Raw I saw last night. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was a solid show. I don't know about you guys, but I just find it funny that we're still harping on the suffer and succotash portion of Roman Reigns' career, even though that was 2 years ago. We can't just move on from that. I agree. At the time, it was stupid, but seriously, can we move on? It's not the end of the world. Also, at the same time, maybe it's just me. I'll have to get your responses at Twitter at Notorious Joshie. Maybe it's just me, but I feel that the hate and the visceral booing towards Roman Reigns is more forced than his pushes right now. And maybe people could say the contrary opinion and have the opposite way of looking at it. That's perfectly fine. But again, just from my point of view, I feel like the hate towards the guy is not that's more not genuine than his actual push or him being the chosen one, I guess. But look, he's going to be taking on Kevin Owens at Royal Rumble for the Universal Championship. We got Jericho up in the Shark Cage. Roman and Jericho had another good match for the U.S. title last night. I enjoyed that. I want to give a shout out to Titus O'Neil and the New Day. I thought they did a really good job with a segment that usually would have been whatever. Move on to the next thing, like one of those in between segments you see during the Raw. I thought Titus and New Day did a good job with what was given, and I thought Woods and Titus had a pretty solid match, to be honest with you. Also, want to give props to Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn. I thought that was cool. Very, very good last man standing match. And Braun Strowman is going to have a very, very big 2017, pardon the pun. At the same time, we have Charlotte taking on Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship now at the Royal Rumble. Sasha Banks came back last night and distracted Nia Jackson, which helped Bayley get the Bayley in the belly off the second row to get the victory. Bayley is now the number one contender to the Raw Women's Championship, which makes sense. And I think, like I mentioned before on last week's show, these two are going to be fighting each other for a long time, which I think is cool. Other stuff, maybe it's just me, but I would like to see in the coming weeks on Raw more Rumble qualifying matches. Because right now we have Jericho, Braun Strowman, correct? We have Braun Strowman, Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, and the New Day. That's already 7 entrants in the Royal Rumble match, and they're all for Raw already. I really don't think that they're just going to have all Raw guys going in the Rumble match, because I think that'd be freaking stupid. You can at least give some guys from SmackDown the opportunity. That's Stephanie's way of trying to one-up Shane for the fact that SmackDown beat Raw in the ratings last week. I just think that'd be dumb. But who knows? Maybe SmackDown does that tonight. You never know. We need Rumble qualifying matches, though. It helps. It gives more meaning to some of these matches in weekly wrestling programming. And I have one suggestion for the WWE when it comes, at least for the matches. I'm fine with it when it's on pay-per-views because you're not having commercial breaks and you have a story you do have to tell. But when you have matches that are only getting at least 5 or 6 on-screen TV time, don't have these guys boggled down with long, drawn-out chin locks and headlocks and arm bars and this and that. It just takes the fan element out of the show. It really ruins the mood of the match, especially when people doing headlocks while they're laying on the canvas too at the same time. I noticed a lot last week when I went to the shows in Chicago for both Raw and SmackDown. These long, drawn-out headlocks, especially during the portions of the match that are in commercial break, that also kills the crowd too. So I like to see that scaled down a little bit in 2017. The Royal Rumble's going to come here. It's going to be very, very fast before you know what I mean? So I was happy to see Goldberg back last night. They had the first edition of the Kevin Owens show. Led up to a bunch of people coming down to the ring. Chris Jericho put Tampa Bay on the list, which I thought was great. Jericho was about to put Goldberg on the list, but that didn't happen. Comes out Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns says that Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho are not going to do jack shit at the Royal Rumble, which may be true at this point. Who knows? You know, you have Mr. WrestleMania and Shawn Michaels, right? I got to ask the question, just based off track record. Is Roman Reigns going to be Mr. Royal Rumble? It's just an idea. Anyways, at the same time, the show ended with Braun Strowman getting a double spear by Goldberg and Roman Reigns, which I thought was cool. And actually, I would like to see Goldberg versus Roman Reigns one of these days. I would. I think that'd be really, really cool. And the way the face-off they're having, and you can tell the crowd's buzzing, man. The guy is a star, man. It's just hard for those hardcore wrestling fans that are upset that a Ring of Honor guy is not the face of the WWE, and because the WWE main product is the main guy in the business, that's what pisses people off. It's not his wrestling ability. It's not how good the guy could have these matches. It's the fact that ROH or non-WWE based talent is not the face of the company. That's what it is at the end of the day. Like I said, I recorded this on Tuesday morning, so I'm not going to be able to give my thoughts on SmackDown this week, but I will do it next week, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about what's going on with 205 Live. Neville's taking on TJ Perkins this week, that I do remember, and also Dolph Ziggler is taking on Baron Corbin. We got Miz and Dean Ambrose for the IC Championship, which is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. And also, John Cena and AJ Styles contract signing. That's also going to be tonight, too, so I'm looking forward to that. You can check out those articles at WrestleZone.com if you like. I appreciate the support as always. Next week, I'm really going to get down to the brass tacks about what's going on in the business, not only WWE. We are going to look into what's going on with Lucha Underground and TNA and Ring of Honor and also New Japan. So I'll give credit for New Japan. They just finished their 11th Wrestle Kingdom. I did not get to see the show. I don't know the results yet. I will try to watch the show later on this week and give you my thoughts on it next week. So, just want to say that out of the way, so you guys are, this guy's just a WWE guy. That's not true. I cover a lot of wrestling promotions, maybe more than I need to. But nonetheless, I just want to thank you guys so much for supporting this show. As always, you guys' support means the world to me. I love doing this show for you guys. You guys make this fun. You guys make it worthwhile. I'm going to be back on audio platforms this Friday on the New Age Insights Network with my boy Mitchell McCool, which you can follow me on Twitter at McCoolNAI. If you guys would like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Twitter at Notorious Joshie. That's Joshie, not Joshy. Also, ladies and gentlemen, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom, everywhere you get podcasts from. Support my work at the Zone of Wrestle. I will also give some shout-outs to my good brother, Brennan Carter. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Jericho06. That's Jericho with a D. Also give a shout-out to my boy, Ronnie Starks on Twitter at Starks Wrestling. Give another shout-out to my good boy and good brother, Brandon DeJesus. The guy's a great guy. Dedrian Cologne, my good brother from my ICB days. KG, Kevin Gray. Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000, Adam Daly, give a Twitter follow at Adam Daly 13. The New Age Insiders Network for allowing me to be on their platform and give me an opportunity. The crew at WrestleZone, you guys, of course, and God. Thank God for always blessing me, giving me the ability to be here, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And you got to take advantage of the time you're on Earth. You know what I mean? So there's a great quote from Notorious B.I.G. that I use as my life motto. You can't change the world if you can't change yourself. And I want you guys to think about that as we close this week's show. Again, if you ever missed an edition of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast, I have a full playlist of podcasts and also the video versions of the show when it was just me and Adam. I have the old Pro Wrestling Experience shows that I did, but this project I did with the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast, this started literally a couple weeks after WrestleMania 32 last year. So I got those editions of those shows on YouTube, youtube.com/Josh Lopez, or just type in Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast and you'll probably find it. Again, by the way, if you want to advertise in the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast, you can send an email at JoshLopezWWE94@gmail.com. Again, that's JoshLopezWWE94@gmail.com. With the subject line advertise. I'd love to be a partner with you, do some business, and get this podcast to spread the word and get this expanded and go out to more countries and more fun stuff. I'm going to be at WrestleMania this year in Orlando. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. So, again, for everybody that's been a fan of this show, I love you guys. This is going to be a fun year for the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. And, hey, we'll see what happens next week. You never know in this world of professional wrestling. You always learn something new. And you always got something new to talk about. That's what's fun about what we do here with the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. So, thank you guys for checking out the pod. We're going to finish this off with a clip of my hometown idol, CM Punk, talking about Vince Russo. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I think I'm going to get some good feedback on it this week. Leave a review, 5-star rating. Leave an honest review on iTunes, by the way. So, all right, enough yapping for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll talk to you all next week. Here is CM Punk.
Hands down better than Waffle House. What do you think about Vince Russo and his booking style? I hate it. I have no real heat with Vince Russo except for the fact that he strapped David Arquette and all these pro wrestling things, which I think are blasphemy, is the only. We got to see the Vince Russo shoot, and I'll tell you why he did it. Just tell me why he did it right now.
For ratings.
For ratings. Who gives a fuck about David Arquette? Courtney Cox, that's it. But no, I don't agree with his Crash TV philosophy. I am more old school, and I will say the cliche, the marquee says wrestling.